Hi, good evening, everybody, and happy Wednesday. Today, for the Great News Channel, this is our third week where I share uplifting, positive, and happy news to you all. The main goal for this news channel is to uplift your spirit and end your day in a happy, positive way. So let's get into it. I'll be sharing a bunch of stories, probably a little bit more than last time, but I'm happy to be able to share the stories that I found that I think will be important to you all. All right. So, the first one I'm going to start off with is about a Chicago area mail carrier. Now, a lot of these videos that end up going viral happen to be on TikTok. This one, sure enough, went viral on TikTok. And the reason it went viral is because this gentleman, Levante Harvey, all right, he is a Chicago area mail carrier. And his video ended up going viral because he's known as the singing mail carrier. So he'll go around the neighborhood singing random songs and whistling and humming a whole bunch of different tunes, and people are just so excited at this nature, of him, this aura that he brings. So neighbors actually, one of the neighbors has started an online fundraiser that helped him buy a brand new car. So he goes on to say, I love you guys so much. It's because of you. So many doors have been open for me that I've only dreamed of. There are not enough thank yous in this world that I can honestly say or give you guys. Just know that you have my heart and will always be here. So over here they have this family, Whitney Cumbo and family, ended up sharing different video clips of him singing um on, it looks like, TikTok and Instagram. And it was shared on Instagram February 6th, saying, my grandmother lost her husband of 50 years, and the mailman is her daily dose of life. You are appreciated. And this just like boomed up so fast. In 2 weeks, it racked up 1.5 million views and more than 12,000 comments. So he says, Levante ends up going to say, singing isn't just music, it's about ministry, it's about spreading hope and joy. And I wanted to start off that story because it's super important. My message here as I go and talk about these stories is to spread hope, is to spread joy, is to spread positivity to all of you who come in and watch this news channel and, really understand the importance of what I'm trying to build here. All right. So the next story is going to be about, what does love mean? I was actually reading a few posts today on Facebook, different people saying they're looking for love or they're searching for love in all the different kind of places. People are looking for those that are trustworthy and honest and respectful and all that good stuff, right? But this story here, shared through the Daily Good organization, says, what does love mean? How 4 to 8-year-old kids describe love. Now, I don't know about you guys, but what do you think? What do you think a kid would say when they think about love? Do they know love? Do they really know love? Let's hear it. So I'm going to take a few kids, and I'm not going to say their names, but I'll just say their ages. So I have a 4-year-old boy here. Says, when someone loves you, the way they say your name is different. You just know that your name is safe in their mouth. And we have a 4-year-old girl who says, love is what makes you smile when you're tired. We have an 8-year-old girl saying, when my grandmother got arthritis, she couldn't bend over and paint her toenails anymore. So my grandfather does it for her all the time, even when his hands got arthritis too. That's love. Love, love reading this. And then we're going to go with two more here. So actually, we're going to go with three. So I have an 8-year-old girl who says, love is when you kiss all the time. That's when you get tired of kissing, you still want to be together and you talk more. My mommy and daddy are like that. They look gross when they kiss. That's very cute. I have a 7-year-old boy saying, love is what's in the room with you at Christmas if you stop opening presents and listen. And it's got, in quotations here, wow, in parentheses, actually, which is true. Around the holidays, we're so enmeshed in opening gifts and food and all that other stuff. But if you really stop and enjoy the moment, I remember asking my kids this year, are you happy? And they said, yeah. And I said, what are you happy about? And my oldest had said, um, I'm really happy to be around family. Like, for her to say that at her age, it wasn't like, oh, I'm so happy I got all the gifts that I got. It was, I'm happy to spend time with family. So it tells a lot about where things start in the home, right? It's important. This last one is a 6-year-old girl, all right? And it says, if you want to learn to love better, you should start with a friend you hate. It's very interesting. Very interesting that we took from 4-year-olds to 8-year-olds, and this is their take on love. So, you guys let me know what you think in the comment section. What is love to you? What does love mean to you? And not only what does love mean to you or what you're searching for in love, but how do you think we can spread more love onto others? You know, is it a simple smile? Is it a hug? Is it asking for permission to give a hug and say, "Hey, you know what? You're really struggling there. How about I just give you a hug? I feel like you need one." Or how about, "Can I pray with you? What can we do?" Right? All right. Next up story is about Syria. Okay. This is about Syrian volunteers rebuilding their shattered schools. Now, a lot of us are in the news, right? We stay in the news. We get the news from social media. We get the news from CNN or Fox or ABC or NBC or whoever it is, right? When you think about Syria, you think about a war torn zone, you know? And it's true. A lot of these places not only are war torn, but kids are really suffering. The youth is suffering because schools are damaged, places of worship they're damaged, and there's no desire to really build it. But I was happy I came onto positive dot news, and I went into the society section of the news, and it talked about volunteers in Syria rebuilding shattering schools and what that looks like. So they highlighted and excuse me if I chop up any of these words here for the towns, but in Talbise, it's a city in Syria's central Homs countryside. They nearly lost a quarter of its school during years of conflicts. So all of its schools within that time, they lost about a quarter in that time. So Talbise once had 24 schools, but only 18 are now operating. So across Syria, an estimated 6,383 schools require restoration, while just 797 have been rehabilitated so far. Imagine that. You have 6,300, almost 6,400 schools that require restoration, and only 797 have been rehabilitated in that time. So, this gentleman, Mustafa Al Daher, is a 48-year-old blacksmith and father of five, realized that his two sons would not receive a proper education under these conditions. So he said, you know what? What about if we fix it ourselves? So another local resident and activist, Nidal Al Okaidi, launched a campaign documenting the condition of Talbise's schools with photographs, sharing them on social media, and calling for donations. And what a great way to know and what a great way to know that the community is coming together, right? Regular people, parents, local residents, um, not relying on the government or anybody else to help them, right? Sure enough, other people in the area got word of it, and another a carpenter got involved. He fabricates furniture, doors, windows, and he initially had left the area and then came back when he learned about the campaign, willing to commit his time. So I really wanted to highlight this story because I feel like it's super important to be able to highlight the good things that are going on, not only domestically, but also abroad, you know. And the people here feel like after the conflict, they escaped from the conflict, obviously to save themselves and their family, but they say that they want to serve their country and give something, even if it's small. So they're giving their skills that they have, they're giving their time, and they're rebuilding it for the next generation. So we pray and hope that the Syrian schools continue to be rebuilt so that the youth can have a wonderful education and experience. All right. So moving on, a few more things here, and I'm going to keep some of these stories a tad bit short. The next one is about rural Cambodian families and how they earn a living, which is very, very difficult, especially in scarce and rural areas. Now, employment is scarce in this one particular Cambodian village named Cam Ranh. And many residents had migrated from the area in search of a means to earn a living. So they indicate that farming crops is quite difficult, but there's a very lucrative market for raising goats. So there's an organization known as Samaritan's Purse, and what they're doing is they're helping residents find new and effective ways to earn an income for families by training them to raise and sell goats ethically. And what a great way, right? And they have a wonderful little video here. It's about 2 minutes long. And I was briefly going through and I was talking on what they want to do. So they're going to be meeting with families and teaching them how to train the goats, how to take care of the goats, and how to raise them in a moral and ethical way. And it's really wonderful because the conditions of the area look very clean, look sanitary, and the environment looks very thriving. So I wanted to highlight on that. And this was a article that I saw through the Global News Alliance website. Okay. Next up is another global story about regenerative agriculture in Kenya. There is a grassroots organization that's focusing on regenerative agriculture, helping Kenyan smallholders cut crop failure, reduce chemical reliance, and dramatically improve yields. And so, how they're doing that is there's a charity called the STRAK Project. That's STRAK. It stands for Strengthening Regenerative Agriculture in Kenya. And the aim and the goal of this is to boost rural livelihoods and improve climate resilience. And apparently, since 2017, it has supported over 60,000 farmers within Kenya. So, what they're doing is they're sharing this this newfound knowledge with the communities, and more than 70% of participating farmers are located in the counties of Kenya's Embu and Tharaka Nithi counties. So they're adapting methodologies, right, such as intercropping, agroforestry, crop rotation, and use of farmyard manure. And they're actually reporting up to 81% of higher yields and 92% improvement in water retention, which is wonderful. So, chemicals have been sharply reduced. There's less soil erosion and way less crop failure. And the goal is to continue to be able to yield these results so that these farmers abroad can be able to sell their crop, make money, and sell it in a good, healthy environment. Right? That's very, very important. Right. All right. Next up, and I wanted to kind of end it. All these stories are nice. I can't pick and choose one or the other to be first or last because there's so many good stories. But this one I wanted to highlight because for those who have children, and who don't really have anybody that can watch their children. I don't know about you, but I've heard childcare is super duper expensive. I know putting my kids in like a academic daycare was very expensive, but there are some other places throughout the United States where childcare is very expensive. Talking about over $10,000 to $20,000 a month expensive. So this week, what's being celebrated in the goodgoodgood.co network website is that San Francisco is one of three cities in the United States. I'll highlight the other two after. They're making childcare free for families earning less than $230,000 a year. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know too many families that are making $230,000 a year. So I like to say, there's a good amount of people that are going to be able to access this child care for free, right? Now, there are some families who in San Francisco, if they earn up to $310,000, they're still going to receive a subsidy and they're going to receive a 50% subsidy. So even if they're making good money, San Francisco is still making a way to make it easy or for families and less stressful for childcare. So the other two cities that I saw that offer either actually free childcare, is New York City. They offer free childcare for all 2-year-olds, and Mexico was actually the first state to provide free childcare for every child in the state. Imagine that. Now, and I asked this question, right? Not only to you, but to the government, to all the people who can decide this at state, federal, and local levels. Why is childcare not free for every kid? You know, and if you own a home, a lot of your property taxes are primarily school tax. And the question for that also is, why are we not cutting property tax for, you know, to even out a little bit more? Why does it have to heavily be on schools, right? Because there are people in the town that don't, have kids in the school system. Maybe not anymore, but just some don't. So they're still paying a high amount in the property tax just for schools and education, when in some circumstances, these districts are really suffering financially and are big deficits. So it's really nice to be able to read about stories like this and highlight them. And this is all part of a larger agenda that's called the Family Opportunity Agenda. It's included in San Francisco City's mayor that includes affordability programs focused on housing, education, food, healthcare, transportation, and much more. So I wanted to highlight that. I've got two more stories, and then we'll almost be at the end. This one I thought was pretty cool. It's through the Upworthy network, and it's about a woman who's on a mission to bring back lost Black American recipes that has people gasping at vinegar pie. Now, I have never heard of vinegar pie. I don't know about anybody here. If you've heard about pie, please put a hand up and let me know me. Um, but I thought it was very, very cool. And so it's talking about people getting creative when they had limited ingredients and practically no budget. What did they do? So apparently, this was very common during the Depression, and also something Black Americans had experienced frequently in the 1800s. But they indicate here that time has stole many of the ingenious recipes until now. So this young lady, Sonia Norwood, she runs a social media page for Wicked Confections. That's WICK apostrophe D Confections. And she owns Sonia, so that's SONJA, Sonia Norwood Custom Cookies. She's been baking up long lost Black American recipes for quite some time. And it states here that though the ingredients have folks scratching their heads, her videos clear things up by sharing each dish's history. So not only is she sharing what the meal is and how it's made, she's also sharing the history of it and where it derived from. So, like in this one particular video on Instagram, which I'm sorry, not Instagram, but TikTok, she talks about peanuts and how peanuts became a major Southern crop after the Civil War and the Tuskegee War as well, right? So one one particular recipe that seemed to become very popular seemed to be vinegar pie, and people weren't too sure how that would really come out. But vinegar pie, I'm going to read it here what the quote says. As she notes, vinegar pie, also known as desperation pie, is classified as a pantry or make do pie. As you can tell, this pie was born out of necessity when fruits or citrus lemons were hard to come by. Home cooks used what they had on hand. Simple pantry staples to make something sweet, like sugar, eggs, butter, flour, and salt. A lot of people associate vinegar pie with the Great Depression, when fresh fruit was super expensive and scarce. But recipes go back much further, as early as 1855. So I really wanted to highlight this story because I found it to be quite interesting. And I think it's really important that we continue to open our minds and our ears and our eyes to history that came before us. Where do recipes come from? Did it come from families? Did it come from culture? Did it come from generations? But Miss Norwood, what she's doing is she's highlighting Black Americans all the way back to the 1800s, and I think that's really dope. So, if you want to give her a follow, you know, I don't earn anything from it. I'm just saying it's a great story. I will go and give her a follow and check it out. I know I'm going to be checking it out some more. Now, this last story I found on the Daily Good organization called Over the Cliff: A Lesson in Being Alive. Brief story before I go into this story, but Every day I work with different students. I counsel them, I help them manage through their emotional needs at the time. And, you know, a big thing that comes up is is the question of life, you know, how precious life is, right? People are in different situations, you know. Some people's situations are heavier than others. And, a lot of people are in isolation. And a lot of people don't have people or support system. So when you question life, with their current life being so difficult, sometimes the only out that people see is ending it because they're like, well, it's just easier, and things don't have to be so heavy on me. But I wanted to highlight this last story because I thought it was very, very important. And it's called Over the Cliff, A Lesson in Being Alive. And it's written by R.E. Cooper Smith. It's a quick 5-minute read. And pretty much it talks about how he was driving on a road. He was driving on Highway 92. I am not entirely sure where that is, but he's talking about how he eventually started driving a little fast and the road was slippery, and he eventually came to a turn where the road was going sharply to the left. He turned the steering wheel, but the car kept going straight, and he tried to brake, but the car kept skidding forward, straight towards the edge of a cliff. Looked around him, nothing he could do to change what was happening. Everything, as fast as it was going, it was still going in slow motion. And so the edge of this cliff kept coming closer and closer and closer. And he's like, man, looks like I'm going to go over the cliff, you know? And he thought to God and he said affirmations and he spoke to God in his Hebrew language. And he imagined himself off the car goes over the cliff. Everything's still moving around him, floating in the air, looking at the world. Then I close my eyes, take my hands off the steering wheel, and there's nothing further I could do now except let go, wait for what comes next. Then I feel the car hit the ground, slide down a steep, muddy hillside, and suddenly everything is still, strangely silent. I open my eyes. Where am I? Am I alive or dead? I can't tell. In front of me, I see the valley far below, but then I see the car is caught on a little tree. That little tree stopped the slide. Now, this guy is in desperation, didn't know what was going to happen, and his car was saved by a little tree. Imagine that, right? Car goes off the cliff, but somehow, even the big weight of that car, there was some intervention in place. It's it's just a beautiful thing. So he questions, what am I supposed to do now? I guess I'll try climbing it up, right? So he climbs up this slippery, muddy slope, sometimes standing, sometimes on all fours. And the closer he gets to the top, he looks up and he realizes something important, that there aren't angels looking down on him, but rather there's people. A dozen people are actually looking at them. Some are concerned, some are relieved, you know, and they're like, hey, you okay? You okay? They called, apparently, this is in California. They called California Highway Patrol. They'll be here. They got a tow truck, got the car out. And it's just so interesting that he provides a miraculous image of what it is to be alive, a miracle in that. He closed his eyes, let go of the steering wheel, and let whatever happen happen. And he could have easily went down, right? His car could have easily went down to the bottom of the pit, and God knows what would have happened there. But he prayed to God, and he believed that a higher power was going to take care of him. And sure enough, that little tree was the savior. So he sees the world as magic and everything being a gift. He even says what I say a lot to people, which is look up. A lot of times we're looking down, right? But he says, look up. Everything is beautiful. Look at the bedroom where I sleep, the plants in the garden, look at the butterflies, look at the snails, look at the clouds in the sky. Everything is a gift. So I really wanted to highlight that because I think it's super important. We never know where we're going to be in life, right? We never know what kind of moment we're going to be in, and we need to sit in that moment and give thanks. So in this very moment, I appreciate everybody who has checked out this third week of the new segment, and I look forward to the full month in our fourth segment next week and starting this great news channel. I look forward for more to come. I have gotten a few submissions from followers. I'm hoping to get a few more. And then next week, I'm going to start highlighting those features. So the submissions from this week did not get into this segment because of the number of stories. But starting next week, those who submitted stories, I'm going to be combing through and I'm going to be picking out two features for the month anniversary in fourth segment of the Great News Channel. I hope everybody has a wonderful, blessed night. Remember to smile. Remember to give yourself more grace. Be gentle and kind to yourself and to others. And I hope you have a wonderful, blessed night. Take care.